Be the person you want others to be. This is the topic of our presentation. And now, of course, we are going to start off with Gandhi's famous words. Be the change you wish to see in the world. And this very precious because I happen to have that paperweight. I don't know if you can see it. I hope you do. It's a paperweight. My daughter happened to give it to me. And it's that. Be the change you wish to see in the world. And this is something that I give a lot to my clients when they come here, because it's a way to remind them when they start saying that I want my husband to change. I want my daughter to change. I want, other people to change. In reality, it all starts with us. That's why I wanted to bring this famous phrase that Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Now, do we really do that? I believe it is easier to say it than to do it. And then this is a reminder that if we want someone to change, it starts with us. If we want things to change, if we want the environment to change, if you want social issues to change, it starts with us. It starts at home. If we want to respect that others respect other people, it starts with us. Even when we say jokes, we may not be as respectful as we think we are. It is so interesting to start paying attention the way we are. Now, for example, what do you do if you don't like the situation? If you don't like the situation, let's say that you're having a conversation and the person is not, behaving the way you expect. What do you do? Do you expect the other person to change? Do you address the situation? Or you behave the way you expect the other person to behave? How do you act? This would be a great opportunity if you go to the chat and then you write down, what do you do? Expect the other person to change, address the situation, and you behave the way you expect the other person to behave. For example, and we're going to start from the bottom. For example, if that person is talking rude to you, it's not being polite, it's not being, nice way of addressing something. How do you respond? Do you start behaving the same way they do? Or you keep your coolness, your calmness, and you behave in a polite manner, the way that you wish he or she behaved? It all starts with us. What about if you address the situation? This is something that I hear a lot. I hear a lot people not liking a situation, a particular situation, but they don't do nothing about it. They just swallow that, when someone behaved in a certain way that they didn't like it. So they swallow that and they continue pretending like if nothing has happened. However, what happens then? You start stuffing your emotions. You start just pretending as if nothing has happened. But all those things, because people say, I don't like confrontation. That is very common that I hear here. I don't like confrontation. So I better do like if it didn't bother me. Then what about if we just make a shift there? And instead of calling that a confrontation to address the situation, we shifted into finding a solution. Because I believe that the challenge most people have is with the word confrontation. It has kind of a negative connotation. In reality, is when you're addressing something. And the beauty is that if you get together with that person, the idea is to find a solution, not to continue perpetuating that, situation. So that is something that we want also to pay attention. If we are taking charge in that, if we are able to address the situation. And the other one is if you expect the other person to change, something that I hear a lot as well. People say, I'll change if he changes. The thing is that we cannot make anybody to change. We can't. People change when they make the decision that they will change, that they want to change. So the only person that we can change actually is ourselves. Okay? So always paying attention to that. Now, see how amazing that quote of Socrates. He said, can you imagine Socrates? Let him who would move the world first move himself. See how profound this quote. Because people sometimes they want to make all those changes on the outside. On the outside, fantastic. What about the inside? And we can see that in families. Maybe that person is a great leader. He's a great leader. He's a great communicator in the outside. He's a great CEO, whatever it is. A great teacher, whatever it is. However, at home, it's not. Or she, I can say he or she, doesn't matter. So, first, as Socrates said, move yourself, because that is what we want. We want to make that connection with ourselves, not to be in automatic, not to be just, going through the motions and that's it. No, we all have things inside that we can always, be better, right? So remember that. For you, some of you that I know that love to take pictures of the quotes, I believe this is a quote that you want to take a picture, because this is the first time actually that I saw it and I loved it. Because you know that when I present this, when I make the presentations, I prepare them. I love to go into research and see what, I'm going to include and all that. And of course, remember, this is sharing with you. And this is also learning, because for me, this is a learning process as well. So I learned through doing my research, and then I share with you what I have found to be valuable. Okay, so this is a beautiful quote. Now, when we are relating to others, we can participate in different ways, because we have our the relationships that we have with our family, being, parents, sisters, grandparents, in-laws, family. Then we have romantic, and of course, into romantic also, falls into family. It's a husband and wife, no? So we have different types of relationships. We have work relationships with our bosses, with our colleagues. If you are a manager, or people that are under, your guidance, your leadership. We have organizations, and we also have relationships, even if they're short relationships, with strangers wherever we go. Remember that we talked last time about that, because sometimes we may say strangers, it really doesn't matter. No, in reality, it is, because many people we face every single day are strangers that we don't know them. We can see them supermarket, at the bank, in a store, just in coming into the building. You can find strangers, when you go and put gas, on your car. So you want to see how you are behaving, because it's easy to say, I live in Miami. And maybe people say, people are so rude in Miami. Well, Pay attention to how you are as well. You can set the example. You can set the example. Saying that, I remember my father used to say, the best argument is the example. The best argument is the example. And we are going to see what I am talking about. What am I referring to? Now, with each of these different situations, relationships, what do you want to find on each situation? And let's take each one of them. Your family relationships. How would you like your relationship with your family be, with your family members? How would you like that to be? What about your romantic relationship? If you happen to be married, husband, wife, you have boyfriend, girlfriend, how would you like that relationship to be? What about work relationships? How do you relate to others? How would you like to feel when you just go to your place, where you work? How would you like that environment to be? What are you bringing to that environment? How do you feel when you go into a room? How do you bring yourself into that room? Sometimes we don't think about those things and they count, okay? Now, the organizations that you work with and when you are with strangers. So how would you like each situation to be? Jim Rohn was a speaker. He was an author, speaker. He was a motivational speaker. If you have never heard any, recording of his, any audiobook, any recording of his, if you have never read any of his books, you can go to YouTube. And YouTube, you can find so many videos of his. He was extremely wise, extremely clever, and he had a very unique way to just, bring his message, a very unique way. And what he said, if you change, everything will change for you. If you change, everything will change for you. And then he liked to give this example, no? What happened to him? Of course, he used his own life to give the example. And he said that when he was 25 and, his life was not what he wanted until he met this man. And he learned a lot from this man. And he is the one who told him, the moment you change, everything is going to change. Because he would, he says that he was always complaining about the government, about the economics, about the relatives, negative relatives, about this and about that. And then he was having, finding trouble with everybody and with everything until he followed this gentleman's advice. When you change, everything changes. And that's what he did. And that's what he talks about, how he became because of this change, because it is inner change. And he said, he's very funny talking. And he's like, well, my negative relatives, they continue being the same. The finances, economy continue being the same. The government continue being the same. But I changed and his world changed. So that is the message that I wanted to share with you from Jim Rohn. Remember, you can always go to YouTube and just search there and you can find valuable information. Now, this is a big one. As I said before, it all starts with us. Let's don't be passive. Let's don't be passive in life, just waiting things to happen to us, just waiting people to change. Let's start with us. Now, look at this. This at a place of work. Look at this boss. How can a leader be like this? Because a leader leads by example. And that is something that we want to also be, because remember also, a leader is not only related to your place of work. A leader can be in a family. You can be a leader. So a leader is someone that is leading others, and other people just look, up for them to follow them, but never, authoritarian, never through, rude behavior. A leader wants to lead by example. Okay. What about this? A parent and an example. A parent, a father, a mother who wants, their child to behave. Do not drink. Go, don't drive and drink. Don't do this. Don't do that. And they are doing their best in saying, to their children how to behave. However, what happens if they are doing it? What happens if they are doing what they are advising their children not to do? And will be like something that is very, very common. Very common. How can you tell someone don't drink if you're drinking? Because what are you going to expect from your child, your teenager? Mom, but if you're drinking, why you're telling me not to drink? So this is something that we want to pay attention, because we set the example, especially parents, because we are role models. We are role models to our kids. If you want your kids not to scream, you do not scream. So because the way we behave, they are always observing. So it is by example that we lead. That's why it's not only a leader, like in organizations, it is also, we are leaders also at home. And we can be the best role models to our kids. And we can also be not the best role models. Okay. So we always want to pay attention to that. And of course, it can be our kids, it can be our grandchildren as well. It's when you are related, with younger people, that you want to give an example. You want to give an example of being resilient, of having, good values, of being able to just, what, I can handle these things. So the way you behave, they can also learn from you. Now, what Nicholas Cole said about this, and this is an example that we can do, because you can say, okay, as I see all these different aspects, of how I can be what I expect others to be, then you say, maybe there's something that I want to change myself. There's something that I'm not really satisfied with it. So what you can do is, according to Nicholas Cole, is see yourself outside yourself. Sometimes I say to my clients, see yourself like if you are in a movie. Like if you are in a movie and there's just a film running, no? And you see yourself. And then notice the way you are behaving, maybe in a situation that you do not like, the way you carry yourself, the way you talk to someone, the way you are handling a situation. And then notice, what is your habit, the habit you have that is associated with that thing that you want to change. Because let's keep in mind that we have habits, we develop habits. And sometimes we say, no, I cannot change. I am like that. I cannot change. Well, you're just setting yourself to failure, because we can always change. We can always change. If we have a habit, who created that habit? We did. Of course, if we are used to the habit, it's easier to stay in that comfort zone and we do not change the habit. However, we can always change it. So first would be to see yourself outside of yourself, see it like in a movie. Then find that habit associated with the thing you want to change. And then make a commitment. I would add that just before saying practice every day. I would just, add that. Make the commitment, because it depends how badly you want it. And if you say, well, you know what, this habit I have is not helping me, it is not really conducive to what I want, to how I want to portray myself to others, so I can give the example of how I want them to be with me, then you make that commitment. Once you make it, then you practice every day, no matter what, because it's all about practice. Because we can do it one day, then we forget, we go back to our old habits, and the change will not happen if we do that. It's practice every day. And it's incredible, because after we do it, then we realize how easy it becomes. Okay? So remember, find yourself something that you want to change. That if you tell me, well, Ligia, I don't have anything, I would say, congratulations, because we all do. We're not perfect, remember. We all may have, tiny thing, maybe something tiny that we want to improve, that we want to change, that we do not feel satisfied with. So, just take a look at your inner self and make that commitment, so you can let go of a habit that is not helping you at all. Now, when we say, okay, how do we want others to be? Let's say that you would, Ligia, I would love someone, or I would love people that are caring. That person to be caring, that person to be loving, that person to be respectful. We want all this list of things. I want someone who's reliable, that when they say she'll be here at 4 p.m., I know she'll be here at 4 p.m. That is fair. That is just, that is fair, that is committed to her word. Something that she said she'll do, she'll just go ahead. Doesn't matter what, she'll do it. That is responsible. That is fun to be with. That is self-discipline. Of course, that is compassionate. Who doesn't want someone who's compassionate, right? That it's a good communicator. And when we talk about being a good communicator, we also, when we say good communicator, that means that speaks clearly, communicates their ideas in a clear way. Don't leave any gray areas. So, maybe you get it this way or you get it that way. No, everything is clear. Everything is on the table. So that person is a good communicator and is non-judgmental, because that is something that very few of us would like, to be with someone who is judging us. Everything we say that we say, that we share, is judging us. Nobody likes that. Now, what about, I hope you took a picture of this, because the reflective exercise I'm going to leave you with for this weekend is, take a look to each one of these values. Most likely, please write on the chat. Just give me your response. Write on the chat if you would like people to be caring, loving, respectful, reliable, fair, committed, responsible, fun, self-disciplined, compassionate, good communicator, non-judgmental. Just write in the chat if you would like people to be like that, or a specific person that you may have in mind. I don't know. You will say yes or no. That's it. Now, the exercise that I suggest for you this weekend is See every single value that you are seeing in this list and ask yourself, am I caring? Am I caring with people? Am I loving? Do I express my love? Am I respectful? Do I respect others for who they are? Am I fair in my decisions, in the way that I see people, in the way that I have my ideas? Am I fair? Am I committed to my work? Am I responsible? Am I fun to be with, or am I always in a bad mood? Because we know, right? That we know people that are like that. Let's hope that it's none of us. Am I self-disciplined? Do I really discipline myself or not? Am I compassionate when someone is suffering? When someone needs sorry, a listening ear, when someone needs someone to be with them, that would be compassionate. Am I a good communicator? Do I say in a clear way what I want to communicate? Or no, you're not that clear. You don't take that chance. Am I non-judgmental? Ask yourself if you find in yourself the values you would like to see in others. And this is a beautiful exercise to do. Remember that this is not to judge yourself, no, and to say, "Ah, look at me, I have all these faults." No, it's not the idea. It's not the idea. Compassion, love, self-love. It's just to, wow, I see these values that are beautiful, and I am lacking maybe few of them, maybe one, maybe you have them all. Beautiful. However, if you find yourself that you do not have some values that you appreciate in others, this is a beautiful opportunity to you to embrace that value, to embrace it, and to start being that person that you want to see in others. So, this is when we talk about self reflection, when we talk about connecting with our inner self, when we talk about connecting with our essence, because this is all, these values is what makes us human beings. And of course, there are other values. This is just a tiny list. There's so many. There's so many. If you are thinking about a value that you would consider that is wonderful, so what if you just add it? You can just add it to the chat. And that would be, of course, welcome, because I always love to learn about new values. Okay. Now, if we did that, if we take the time and just be with ourselves, sit with ourselves. Some people have a challenge at times to sit with themselves. And you know what? It's a great communication, because the relationship that is the most important is the one we have with ourselves. And if we can just sit with yourself when you're at home, when you are by yourself, and then you do that exercise about the values, it would help you, as we say here, it would help you to stop paying attention to what others are doing or not doing. And you take responsibility on what you are doing, not on what you, because I started saying we, that's right. We would stop paying attention to what others are doing and take responsibility on what we are doing. Sometimes, that in a relationship, maybe, just maybe, we are contributing to that situation. And you may say, no, it is not my fault. It's not because of me. He is like that, or she is like that. Well, in a relationship, because there are two parties, we always play a role. Maybe Small percentage, maybe half and half, but it will always play a role. So let's pay attention. How are we being in that type of situations? Because instead of complaining about others, as we do this exercise that I invited you to do, we could take an inventory of ourselves. It's easier always to be paying attention to others than to take the time and take an inventory of ourselves. Now, and this is wonderful, it can motivate us to take action towards the only thing we can do, which is change ourselves. Okay, so that is the intention. That is the purpose in doing that exercise. This requires, yes, of course, no? Right, inner work, but that is the best work. That is beautiful, inner work. You know that most of you, if not all of you, well, some of you know that I lost my mom, my beloved mother, a year and a half ago. That time of my intense grief that some of you know I went through because we shared a lot. The inner work I did, it was so profound, and I am so grateful. I feel blessed because I was able to do it. It helped me personally. It helped me professionally because I work with grief, as you know. So let's take the time to do inner work. What I share with you, it's never something that I don't do, because if not, I would not know what I'm talking about. I do it, and I feel it does make a difference in our lives. It really does. Because you know what? Instead of asking someone to change or wishing others were different, you make the decision to make it happen. In you. The real change comes when we go within and do the work of inner transformation, to examine ourselves openly, honestly. And you know what? Something that most people have a challenge with is to realize that we are vulnerable. And we are vulnerable. It's part of our making, of being humans. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful to be vulnerable, because that gives us the opportunity to recognize what goes inside of us, and it gets us more in touch with our humanity. So it is not something to run away from. It's something to get closer to, because that is the only way that we can deal with what makes us vulnerable, and to process it, and then to embrace other emotions as well. Okay. Now, what I found this quote to be very interesting, because this doctor, he wrote the book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. He works basically with couples. And he said, people can change only if they feel that they are basically liked and accepted the way they are. See how interesting. People can change, meaning they made the decision to change, only if they feel that they are basically liked and accepted the way they are. So instead of being criticized, instead of being under the microscope, no, they feel they're liked and accepted. See this? When people feel criticized, disliked, and unappreciated, they are unable to change. Instead, they feel under siege and they end to protect themselves. So we many times do the opposite of what works, because people think that, or may think, that criticizing and bringing the faults, and throw it in front of people, the other person, that's when they are going to motivate others to change, or to make them finally to change. Well, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work with couples, as this psychologist says, that who's the expert in working with marriage, and it doesn't work neither with parents. I want to say that, because sometimes parents wanting their kids to change, they give them the list of all the things they do wrong, all the things that they do wrong, with the expectation that the kid is going to change. If the kid is feeling criticized, you think they want to change. And this, we can even extrapolate this. We can even take it to work. If the boss, saying to an employee, you're always making mistake. And last time you sent a letter, you did this. And this time that you sent an email, you did this. And that project did it. So all the faults, criticizing the other person with the intention that that person is going to start doing things right. That person may not, well, if they want to, keep their work, most likely they will. But maybe he or she is not interested in having a boss that is bringing all the faults and throw it to their head, their faces. Nobody likes that. So let's always pay attention. If you are dealing with someone that you do not particularly like the way he or she is, instead of criticizing, change your approach and go into showing to them that they are liked and that they are accepted and that there is something in their behavior that doesn't resonate with you, you do not agree with. That doesn't mean that because something they do, then you do not like them as a person. A behavior doesn't make it a person. It's a part of the person, not the whole. So something that, and I know that last time in one of these, we talked about that, and I told you the example of what I have told some parents, instead of saying to their kids with one bad grade they got an F in a test. Yes, it's frustrating for the kid, for the parents, it's frustrating. However, instead of saying to the child, no, you're such a bad student. No, that child got a bad grade. That doesn't mean that he is a bad student. However, if that child's being criticized, always getting that message, you're such a bad student, that may turn into a belief, because that's a message that that child is getting. Okay, so very similar, to what this doctor is saying. So what Rafael Ellison says, we want to be happy. And the reason for this is there are so many self-help books, so many seminars people go to. The self-help industry is expected to reach 13.2 billion by 2022, which is this year, okay? So many self-help books. Now, my question to you is this, and I can say to me as well, right? Are we applying what we read and hear? Are we applying it? We can read so many self-help books, and there are amazing books out there. Are we doing it? The same with seminars. You may be in a seminar and may say, yes, this is fantastic, this is awesome. The moment you leave the seminar, you have the manual and all that, you get home, put it in the drawer, and you never see that manual again. So that's what it is important, that if we want to be happy, because that's why we read the books and we go to seminars and all that, let's start applying one thing that you can get out of a book, one thing that you can get out of a seminar. And that's all it is. Because as Kyle Nielsen said, it is never about changing people. It's about changing yourself in ways to inspire people. It is about changing the approach to a conversation, to learn more about the other person's wants and needs. It's about changing you to create a change in others. And then I leave you with this beautiful quote that says, happiness starts with you, not with your relationships, not with your job, not with your money, but with you. Thank you so much.
Ligia, would you go to the one last to this, please?
Yes.
Before this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before this. Esta.
Before
This
that.
one.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's a beautiful one. Awesome. For you to take pictures, yes. Because this is a beautiful one.
Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.